What's up, guys? In this video, I'll be rehauling a Halloween Ends mask by Trick or Treat Studios. So this is actually the finished mask, and this is the stock mask as I got it. I don't think they did too bad of a job with these, but on a side note, I just want to say if you're a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for dropping by again, and I do apologize for how long it's taken to get another video out. But anyway, the stock mask again is not bad looking at all, and the detail looks pretty good, and they did a much better, more careful job with painting, especially on the burnt side. And the cotton does look a little bit weird, but it is what it is. You can't expect too much with a mass-produced mask. So at this point, I'm dremeling the eye cuts just to adjust them a little bit and give them a more jagged and rough appearance. It just makes them look a little bit more realistic. I also screwed up and I dremeled away a chunk of paint, which I was not planning on doing, and I came to the realization that I would probably have to remove as much paint as possible because of this. I just proceed along with my eye cuts. I also work on the bottom section of the neck, again just for more depth. But yeah, I'm throwing on this new Dremel attachment just to help with the paint removal, and it's a type of steel bristle brush, but it didn't work too great and I was losing bristles. I know this probably wasn't the right tool for the job, but I just wanted to try it out and see what would happen. But anyway, I ended up removing this paint because if you paint over that, you're going to see that there's going to be a difference in texture, and it's just not going to look good. So I couldn't leave things like that. I was already tight on time with this mask, but now it's getting even worse. So here I'm removing the hair at the front because I'm not too big of a fan of the hairline, and I felt I could do something better. But I am leaving the rest of the hair because to me it was something that I could salvage. There is also a guide built into the mask that you can use for the hairline, which is nice. And this is also a little stamp that I noticed on these newer masks, kind of neat. I do use a new Dremel attachment for the paint removal, but there's just more of that. It was a really long process and it took a lot of time, but the benefit is that you do get more detail also, which is nice. And I just sand by hand just to smooth it out with 240, and I rub it down with naphtha just to clean it up further as well. Now I'm finally moving on to airbrushing. I'm just using a mixture of 1 part acrylic paint, 1 part latex, and 1 part distilled water. The acrylic paint wasn't anything special, it was just generic stuff. But the latex is from Monster Makers, and I felt it made a really big difference with the quality of my paint job. I'm just running it through my airbrush at 40 psi because it is thicker, but I'm going in nice even coats here. I do spray some different off-white coats and darker coats of paint just to add in a little bit more variation and texture. And now I'm moving on to doing an ink rub out, which is something that I learned from Nightmare Toys. I also had some other viewers recommend this, but it is basically just a mixture of ink with alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and you just spray it or rub it on the mask, and basically it goes into different cracks and crevices. It acts as a wash, but this ink is definitely a little bit more watery, I feel, and it gets into those different spots, those deeper crevices a little bit more easier, and it stays there. I then used a sponge saturated in alcohol just to get rid of the excess, and after it dried just a little bit, I wiped the surface with a paper towel. You can repeat this whole process again if you want a more exaggerated look, and that's actually what I ended up doing. So it was necessary for me to paint in some details by hand, and I'm basically using some black, yellow, and brown acrylic paint and some water on the mask to get the rest of those details filled in. It's sort of like a little mini wash isolated in a certain area. So that's what I'm doing, and I run through different areas quite a bit before I come to a point where I'm satisfied. Next up came dry brushing, and I'm actually using makeup brushes for this. I'm doing my highlights first just because I wanted to try something different, and I wanted to get those lighter spots added to the mask first before the darker areas. At this point, this is kind of what things are looking like after some highlights. And afterwards, I'm proceeding with adding different shadows on places like the lips, the nose, around the neck, and so forth. And guys, this was just a lot of layering, a lot of back and forth, a lot of revisions, just fixing things, going back in and changing colors. And I'm also using smaller brushes with watered down paint just to accentuate different areas too. But a lot of different techniques and different shades of colors going on just to get the right blends, right looks that I'm looking for. I'm speeding things along here, but this was a stage where I had to be real experimental, and I just had to try out different techniques. I was also looking at different reference photos from other rehaulers, and I was looking at screenshots from the movie too, just to get ideas, but just something to do when you go into a project like this. Here I've definitely layered on a lot more yellow paint and brown paint on the burnt side, just to get more contrast. And I'm adding in this kind of blood color along the hairline and in the cheek section, but it's more of like a brown, darker kind of blood, because obviously it's old at this point. I'm also giving the back of the neck some love and making things kind of dirty here, because you can't forget that either. And I'm going through adding some highlights, just more yellows and even a little bit of green later on, just to make this burnt end pop. And also I had to add some black too, because I still wanted to show that this side had gotten burnt more. And I've seen, in screenshots and other rehauls that people didn't focus on that as much. But in this section with the big gash, I'm adding in some green as well and just, making it look nasty. I just wanted to nail that moldy look. And after a lot of revisions, a lot of reworks here and there, and touch-ups, this is currently where I'm at with the paint. Again, just focus on building up those layers, adding lots of yellows and browns, because that's what this mask has plenty of, for more of that organic look. And now I'm working on the hair. I did have to use some leftover camel hair to fill in certain spots that I had to rip out. Camel hair is something that can be found on Etsy. I don't have an active link for this exact seller I bought from, but you can find it if you look. And this is me just adding it back into the hairline. This was a messy process. I still feel like I'm not too good at rehairing, but I just patted it down and I folded this front end of the hairline just to hide, that messy seam. So if you put more glue down and fold the hair up in front, you can kind of tuck it up and make it look a little bit cleaner. So that's a little technique that tends to help. And here is, again, some more colors, more greens like I was talking about. I just felt like adding it back in before I got too far. And you can really see that kind of moldy, nasty color start to appear and take form here. I wetted the hair just to get it messy and also to style it. And I also used this opportunity to remove a lot of the excess, because there was definitely these bigger, weirder clumps that formed when I glued the hair down. And I had to get rid of that just to make everything look more natural and blended together. And now I'm burning the hair. Not much else to say here. I just wanted to do the real deal because that's always what looks best. And yeah, I'm just using different lighters to get, a nice crispy effect. Afterwards, I do lay down some hairspray just to lock in those burnt details and textures, and also just to clump up the hair because I do like that messy look on the damaged side of the mask. This is just some more styling and texturing going on here. I did decide to darken the hair a bit as well, but before doing that, I added some clear coat to the rest of the mask, and I just used Liquitex for this, just matte Liquitex. I have heard of people not recommending this stuff, but in my opinion, it works fine, and it looks good too, so I like it personally. But yeah, it does add a little bit more depth to the mask, as well as protection, of course. I like that you can see a little bit more colors, there's more contrast, and it just works good for what it is. But if you have any other suggestions, definitely let me know. And as you can see, I just started spraying on some acrylic ink here, the black ink, onto the hair. It's been diluted with alcohol as well, and I'm not doing too much, just enough to darken it a little bit. The burnt side did get more ink though, of course. Finally, here is the mold. I just put down some hairspray and I put the mold or cotton in the hair. I'm just spreading it out real thin and even, and I'm wanting to get more of that kind of webby, kind of airy looking effect. So I definitely had to break down that cotton quite a bit before laying it down, but I just kept repeating that. This is unlike anything I've had to do on a mask before, so again, just more experimentation. I did also have trouble with finding a proper adhesive to use with the cotton. I tried to use the clear coat in certain spots, but it tended to add a little bit too much of a sheen. And other glues I had also kind of did the same thing, but I'm sure there are other videos out there with other materials people use that work better. I just kind of ended up wetting the mask, laying the cotton down while it was wet. And obviously the cotton's just going to fall off when it dries, but this kind of helped just to place it. In the end, I decided to clear coat over that to help get it to stick. And this also did kind of change the texture and appearance of the cotton. I did have to take out some of the cotton because it became a little bit too much and it got a little too thick looking after the clear coat. But after that, I mean, it did work out, so, you know, I thought it looked pretty good otherwise. So after those shots of me placing the cotton, you'll see where I tried to add more clear coat over the cotton to get it to stick. I don't know, this really wasn't that great of an idea, but it worked okay. But you can see some of the cotton started to kind of blow around. After that, the cotton is pretty much set, and in some spots, like this cheek area, it turned out pretty good after that whole, treatment with the clear coat. And yeah, we're pretty much done here. So you can see some shots of the finished mask, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with the final result. I do feel a bit hesitant with calling these videos how-to videos because I'm not an expert and I mess up quite a bit. But, I just like doing these masks and sharing my experience with the whole process. If you guys do have any feedback about how I could do anything better, definitely feel free to let me know, and I do appreciate that. Lastly, I'm just flashing the original stock mask for comparison, and I'm going to follow up with some more cinematic looking shots here at the end. If you guys stuck around this far, thank you so much, and again, I really do appreciate it. If you like what you saw here, feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be doing my best to upload more regularly for everyone. Thanks again, and I'll catch you guys next time.